The U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency on October 1, 2025, issued a congressional notification clearing a potential foreign military sale to Canada for 26 M142 high-mobility artillery rocket systems
amid the endless white expanse of the Arctic, where ice cracks like thunder and horizons blur into frozen infinity. A quiet transaction just reshaped the northern chessboard. On October 2, 2025, the U.S. State Department nodded yes to a $1.75 billion arms handshake with Canada. 26 M142 HIMARS rocket systems, loaded with precision-guided munitions capable of arcing 300 kilometers to strike deep and true. It's the kind of deal that sounds like standard-issue alliance housekeeping. Two neighbors bolstering their shared backyard, but peel back the layers, and whispers emerge. Is this a polite upgrade, or a pointed warning etched in rocket fuel? To Russia, whose icebreakers prowl the Northwest Passage like wolves at the door, or to China, whose polar Silk Road dreams mine the seafloor for rare earths beneath melting flows. As Prime Minister Mark Carney accelerates Canada's sprint toward NATO's 2% defense spending target by fiscal 2026, this infusion of firepower isn't mere metal and math. It's a continental clench of the fist, sinking Ottawa's arsenal with Washington's stockpiles in the shadow of Ukraine's battlefield triumphs. With NORAD's watchful eyes scanning southward, threats turning northward, let's launch into the why and the what if of this high-stakes salvo. The roots of this rocket rendezvous stretch back through decades of defrosting alliances, from the Cold War's frosty pacts to today's thawing battlegrounds. It all pivots on NORAD, that 1958 treaty-born behemoth where U.S. and Canadian radars entwine to guard the continent's skies, a partnership that slumbered post-Soviet collapse but jolted awake with Russia's 2014 Crimea snap and the 2022 Ukraine thunderclap. Canada, long the alliance's laggard at 14% of GDP on defense, pledged a seismic $38.6 billion over 20 years in its 2022 Our North, Strong and Free policy, targeting 5 pillars: surveillance radars overhauling the North Warning System by 2032, tactical aircraft swaps like F-35s by 2032, infrastructure beef-ups, command tech refreshes, and yes, that elusive ground-based punch. Under Carney's June 2025 vow to hit NATO's 2% mark 5 years early, pouring an extra $9 billion into the kitty. This HIMARS nod slots in like a missing piece, bridging Ottawa's artillery gap amid Arctic alarms. Picture the stage. The Arctic's ice sheet, shrinking at 13% per decade, isn't just geography. It's a gateway cracking open to commerce and conflict. Russia commands 40-plus icebreakers, its 2025 exercises deploying 20 warships in a show of encirclement, while China's fleet of 9 nuclear behemoths funds scientific forays that double as resource grabs. Rare earths, oil, the works, under its 2018 Polar Silk Road blueprint. Beijing's Arctic ambitions mesh uneasily with Moscow's. Their May 2025 working group yielding joint statements on cooperation, but laced with Moscow's wariness of too deep Chinese hooks. The U.S., in its 2022 Arctic Strategy Refresh, demands integrated deterrence against hybrid probes, drones buzzing Alaska, subs shadowing Beaufort sea routes, survey ships mapping undersea cables, Canada's 2 aging icebreakers, a drop in the polar drink. Enter HIMARS, battle-proven in Ukraine, where it lobbed over 10,000 rounds to shred Russian logistics. Its mobility, a godsend in vast, unforgiving terrains where fixed guns falter against hypersonics or swarms. This isn't Ottawa's first rodeo with Uncle Sam, F-35's Chinooks, but HIMARS marks the leap to offensive reach, calibrating for a north where threats creep from patrols doubled since 2023. As one D&D insider framed it, "We're not building for parades. We're arming for the passages that matter." Fast forward to the fine print, and this October 1 Defense Security Cooperation Agency notification unfolds like a blueprint for precision peril. The U.S. greenlit a potential foreign military sale to Canada, pending 30 days of congressional scrutiny, with Lockheed Martin as the linchpin contractor churning out these wheeled wonders from Camden, Arkansas. At $175 billion USD peanuts, next to the $20 billion in US FMS to allies last year, it bundles not just hardware, but a full-spectrum suite for seamless sync. Core haul: 26 M142 HIMARS launchers, those 6-wheeled titans that shoot and scoot in under 5 minutes, dodging counterfire like ghosts in the snow. Ammo arsenal: a mix to match missions, 132 M31A2 GS unitary pods, each packing 6 insensitive munition rockets for pinpoint 70-kilometer strikes on bunkers or batteries. Another 132 M30A2 alternative warhead pods for broader suppression, mimicking cluster effects without the scatter. 32 extended range GMLRS ER pods stretching to 150 kilometers for those mid-Arctic gaps. And the crown jewels, 64 MGM tack-on 200 million plus for the glue. Training modules for 200-odd Canadian gunners at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Spare parts depots, logistics chains threading from US hubs to Canadian outposts, and software tweaks for NATO interoperability, letting these birds nest with F-35 sensor feeds or allied drone swarms. Delivery timeline: first units rolling north by 2027, full operational punch by 2028, timed to dovetail with NORAD surveillance overhauls. As the DSCA dryly noted, this proposed sale will enhance Canada's long-range precision strike capabilities, contributing to regional security and deterring aggression in the Western Hemisphere. No frills, but the subtext sings. In a theater where distances dwarf Europe's, this isn't overkill. It's outreach, turning Canada's M777 howitzers' 40-kilometer popgun limits into a continental conversation starter. Lockheed's stock ticked up 1.5% on the news. A nod to the ripple. Jobs in Arkansas. Tech transfers northward. A web of deterrence tightening from Latvia's NATO flanks to the Beaufort's blue ice. The fallout? A northern flank flexing muscles it hasn't felt since the DU line days, but with ripples that lap at economies, ecosystems, and alliances alike. Tactically, HIMARS catapults Canada's ground forces from towed relics to mobile maestros, tripling reach and folding into joint ops where F-35s spot and rockets smite. Think Arctic patrols zapping drone incursions or hybrid raids on cable lays. Hemispherically, it steals NORAD against the aerial incursions, spiking 20% in 2025. ATATMS, eyeing Russian Kilo-class subs or Chinese survey vessels as anti-ship proxies without permanent bases. Economically, the $1.75 billion jolt part of Carney's $105 million 2025-2026 defense tranche fuels Lockheed's coffers while seeding Canadian supply chains, assembly tweaks in Montreal, munition fills in Alberta, high-wage gigs for 1,000 plus in the pipeline. It eases Washington's burden, sharing grumbles, Canada climbing from NATO's caboose to credible crew, deploying units to Latvia's enhanced forward presence for Euro-Echo deterrence. Yet the human thread weaves tighter. Those 200 trainees aren't faceless. They're prairie kids and coastal vets drilling under Oklahoma suns, returning to man positions from Yellowknife to Goose Bay, where HIMARS batteries could anchor community radars against the isolation that breeds vulnerability. Broader still, this echoes the global HIMARS diaspora sales to Australia, Poland, now Canada, crafting a lattice of US-aligned fire that chokes autocrats' supply lines, much as Ukraine's volleys did. Environmentally, a double-edged blade. Enhanced patrols curb illegal fishing or seismic blasts, but rocket tests scar the tundra, demanding Carney's green-tinged procurement vows hold water. In sum, it's power projection with a purpose, fortifying the roof over 600 million North American heads, one guided arc at a time. The echo chamber, a chorus of cheers laced with side-eyes, from Ottawa's halls to X's frosty feeds. Official Ottawa lit up with quiet resolve. D&D hailed it as a timely NATO multiplier, while Carney, in a September address, dubbed it essential for our northern bulwark, tying it to the 2% pledge that investors cheered with a 2% bump in defense stocks like Bombardier. Stateside, the State Department touted an interoperability triumph, with hawks like Senator Marco Rubio tweeting endorsement, Canada stepping up, Arctic stays free. Industry hummed approval. Lockheed's Camden plant buzzed, shares climbing as analysts pegged a $500 million revenue slice. But X, that digital drumbeat, thrummed with raw rhythms. HIMARS Canada trended with 5,000 posts in 48 hours, a mix of fist pumps. Finally, Putin's Arctic poach gets checked, and jabs overkill. Canada's buying in after freeloaded for decades. One viral thread from a Yellowknife veteran. HIMARS in the Yukon? Beijing's dreams just got a 300-kilometer nightmare. Skeptics snarled. NDP. MP Jagmeet Singh queried the tab amid housing crunches. Billions for rockets while rents soar. Russia's MFA sniped NATO provocation in the high north, echoing Beijing's murmurs of militarization. Satirists skewered. Canada arming up. Next, Moose with ATAC MS, yet the tide tilted positive. 70% of polls showing public buy-in for the spend, a far cry from 2022's apathy. As one CBC op-ed captured, it's less fireworks than firming foundations. Neighbors nodding over shared fences, eyes on the ice. So, warning or wisdom? Both, in the subtle calculus of deterrence where quiet steel speaks loudest. As signal, it's spot-on timing. Russia's 2025 naval push, 20 hulls shadowing passages, meets China's 9 icebreakers with a HIMARS hedge, projecting reach without provocative permanence, chilling adventurism short of shots fired. CSIS fellows nod. Deterrence 1001, subtle strength to freeze foes in place. Yet it's no clarion, routine as the 2024 $2.5 billion HIMARS wave to allies, DSCA eyes. Europe more than Eskimo pie charts, per the docs. Risks lurk escalation if Moscow misreads offense, or Ottawa's fisc straining under 5% GDP pledges by 2035. Experts like RUSC's Justin Bronk weigh upgrade first, alarm second. Ties to USMCA's 2026 defense review could bind or bite. Horizon, deliveries by 27, drills in 28, weaving into NORAD's $423 billion R&D surge for hypersonic hunts. In this polar pas de deux, it's calibration. Arming kin keeps the peace, lest the melt turns to mayhem. As the Aurora dances over Inuvic's new radars, this $1.75 billion bridge across the 49th feels less like a shot across the bow and more like a steadying hand on the tiller, arming the north against shadows lengthening from afar. Warning? Perhaps a whisper to interlopers, the roof's reinforced. Wisdom? Undeniably, in an era where ice recedes and ambitions advance. For Canada, it's a stride from spectator to sentinel. For the continent, a reminder that shared skies demand shared spines. Is the Arctic's new normal one of guarded gateways or gathering gales? Your call, drop it below, and subscribe for the next vector in this vigilant vigil. In the end, amid the rockets and radars, one truth arcs clear: neighbors who fortify together thaw the threats apart.